What is going on, everybody? It is your boy, I'm over without you. Back out with another video, and today we are doing yet another toxic tier list ranking, and also this is another ranking. So yeah, and we are doing a tier list ranking of all the Hobbit or in Lord of the Rings or Middle Earth movies, whatever term you would like to call it. And we will be ranking them from the worst to the best in tier list form, including the newest movie, Lord of the Rings, The War of the Rohirrim. But before we get into actual beginning of the video itself, guys, don't forget to subscribe if you're new to the channel, because number one, it's absolutely free. Number two, also maybe help with the YouTube algorithm, recommend the video to more people, maybe they could join that toxic fam. And do feel free to comment your lists down below. But with that being said, guys, let's get right into and before we get right into let's go over the tiers. So I have best of the best, which means they are like a perfect movie. They are well regarded and they are amazing, and they're perfect. Great means they come close to best of the best, but there's just a minor thing. There's a thing holding it back from getting up there. That one issue I had. Toxic goodness means it was good. It was a solid movie. Okay means overall, it was overall mixed bag. I didn't necessarily know how to feel about it. And then toxic trash means dumpster fire. The worst movies in the Lord of the Rings franchise. Alright, and, starting things off, we're going, let's go in timeline order here. So that's actually last right there. Wait, no. Oh gosh, I just went backwards. Okay, and it was, okay. Alright, there we go. Going timeline order. Anyways, when the movies came out. Alright, oh my goodness. Okay. Why is this happening to me? Okay. Hold on. There we go. Alright, anyways. I just don't want to get disoriented about anything. Anyways, so the first movie we have here is the animated 1977, I believe, Hobbit movie. And this and all the rest of the animated movies on this list were first-time watches. And it was okay. It was alright. It's just a generic kids movie from that time frame. The animation's unique, but I didn't overall love the animation. It kind of still looked a little bit dated, while still having a certain charm to it to revisit back to it, because it came out in the late 70s, so it's a little bit different animation compared to all the other ones, so that's why I kind of wanted to visit it again, but I don't really care to revisit this one again. It's not a bad movie, it's just, it's alright, it wasn't for me personally. Next up, we also got the anime Lord of the Rings movie, which I think overall, I would say I enjoyed the animated Hobbit movie better, to be honest. Originally, I thought the animated the animated Lord of the Rings movie was better, but this I'm very mixed on, because I couldn't think of a whole lot of things to say about any of these movies, really, the animated movies, more specifically. I couldn't really think of a whole lot of things to say, and this is yet another example of that, and even more so. I'll probably put this at the bottom. I think the animation still looks beautiful. I think out of the old animated Lord of the Rings / Hobbit movies, I think it has the best animation out of the three, where it is similar to, like, a Disney princess movie around that time, sort of like Sleeping Beauty, Cinderella, trying to think of any other ones, Peter Pan. It's like around that time with the animation. It's very close to that. But also they add this little interesting aspect that they do with it, where they make it transition into live action for some certain sequences. When it's a flashback or whatever, they pull out like a big red screen, it's see-through, and you have actors motion capturing through the back to tell the story, which I thought was very interesting. And also this one is quite violent. That's all I'll say. I was surprised by how much bloodshed was shed in this one. So if you want a little bit more darker anime movie, there you go. But yeah, it was all right. It was all right. I didn't mind it. And then we got Return of the King. My easily, I don't know if this is a hot take or not, but this is my favorite out of the animated movies, while still not being perfect. I think this had the best soundtrack. There is one song, oh, there's a whip, there's a way when there's a whip. There's a way. That song was awesome. That was fire. Anyways, and also there's a couple other songs in there too that are good, but none that reach the level of that song. I think the lava fight overall was pretty decent between, I think decently animated for the time with Gollum fighting Sam and Frodo. I think that was a pretty good fight. I think, and also I forgot to mention throughout this whole entire animated trilogy, Gollum has a very unique design, which I do think was interesting how he looks different in these, but in the movies he looks, yeah, in the movies he looks different, and this one he looks different too, where in the movies he's just a skinny guy with no hair or anything anymore. And then this one he's kind of a mixture, he's kind of a amphibian, if that makes sense. So that, I thought that was a little bit interesting take. So yeah, and I'm not so sure about the voice acting there. Now we get on to the good stuff, folks. And starting off, we have Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring. There's no doubt. We all know where that's going. Best of the best. One of my favorite movies of all time. I love it to death. It's in my top 50 personally. I think everything about this movie is perfect. I forgot to mention this for my actual solo reviews for each of the original trilogy, but the soundtrack, man, it's so perfect. Just from the music for the Hobbits, then you also got the music for the villains. I think everything was just composed beautifully well. The characters are great with Frodo, Gandalf. Also Boromir is a really underrated character. I think he was played really well by Sean Bean in here. The special effects I think still hold up quite well for this coming out in the 2001, which that was a time frame from like the early 2000s, 2001 to 2005. We had some terrible CGI. This time around, we had some pretty good CGI, and I think it still holds up. The special effects and makeup effects for the orcs, I think, is really good, and they do a good job at making them gross, especially how they're birthed. Oh my goodness, that's a scene I cannot get out of my head. That one of my favorite movies of all time. Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers. Spoiler alert for another entry, but this is probably my least favorite of the trilogy, but still, it's a best of the best movie. The only thing holding it back from being, like, my favorite is the length. I feel as if, we'll eventually talk about Return of the King in a second, but I think this one's length is kind of stretching it a little bit because it is the middle chapter of the trilogy, and I was thinking maybe they could have trimmed that down, but unlike the Return of the King, where I think that runtime's earned because it is the final outing of the franchise. This time around, I don't know if it works personally or not, but still, the battle sequences are great. The characters are still great. This one puts Gollum more at the forefront, and he's voiced masterfully by Andy Serkis. I mean, even if you haven't seen these movies, I'm pretty sure everyone knows that iconic Gollum voice. Wait, I'm sorry. Hold on. I botched it again. That was my best impersonation of Gollum. 10 out of 10? Okay, moving on. But yes, still great. And also introduced some new characters, too, that I liked, as well. Eowyn being one of them. And then the final movie in the original trilogy, Return of the King, and it's also an S tier, my second favorite of the franchise. That probably would be in my top 100 favorite movies of all time, if not the top 150. I still love Return of the King too. It is a very, very long movie, which I overall still mixed about, but at that ending, it perfectly ends the trilogy with everything. With that whole entire sequence where Frodo and Sam have to say goodbye. Oh my goodness, this time around, I hadn't seen these movies in a very, very long time, and that got to me. That had me bawling a couple of bits in that watching that scene go down. The epic action sequences, just the scale of them, you can tell it is the final movie in the trilogy. The lava fight's great, and the dynamic between Sam and Frodo is great as well. That followed very well from the Two Towers. Next up, now we move on to the Hobbit trilogy. And first up, we have Harry Potter. Not Harry Potter. That's a different universe, Lucas. Or Toxic, whatever term you prefer. Anyways, The Hobbit. Originally I was way more harsher on this trilogy, but having rewatched this again, I've warmed up on the Hobbit trilogy. The first one, The Forbidden Journey, I'll put Toxic Goodness. I still think it's good. Especially this one's the funniest, I would say, Middle Earth movie out of the bunch. Which I think adds a distinct charm to it. Martin Freeman as Bilbo Baggins is a perfect casting choice. They did a great job at choosing that. The villain, this also built up the villains for the prequel trilogy quite well as well. And yeah, it was a really good first chapter in the Hobbit trilogy while still being a tad bit long and also having some points where the movie did drag a little bit. I believe this is Hobbit Desolation of Smaug. And Hobbit Desolation of Smaug is great. I originally thought that rewatching this trilogy, I was probably going to say the Unexpected Journey would probably be my favorite out of the Hobbit trilogy, but no, this one is my favorite. Smaug was a great villain. He is played by Benedict Cumberbatch, both voice acting and motion capture, and Benedict did a great job at that. This was way before he was Doctor Strange. Well, not way before it's Doctor Strange, but a couple years before Doctor Strange. He did really good. What was I gonna say? This introduces the new character of Luke Evans, which he's also a pretty decent character, and this has probably I would say they're up there for some of my favorite action sequences in the whole entire Middle Earth franchise, with the whole entire spider sequence when Bilbo gets sting, and also the barrel sequence. That sequence was hilarious, and it knows it's ridiculous, but it just rolls with it, which I love. So yeah, I'm gonna put that great. Next up, we got Lord of the Rings, The Battle of the Five Armies. And originally, I thought I did not like this movie, but having rewatched the trilogy, I still think it's Toxic Goodness. I've warmed up on it quite a bit. I still am not the biggest fan of the character of Thorin. I know that might be a hot take for some people. I don't know. I find it hard to like him in this sort of character when he's kind of in this movie where he's very power hangry. But the final battle sequence is very epic in scale as well. So yeah, I think it's good. And then finally, we have the most recent addition to the Lord of the Rings franchise, that being Lord of the Rings, The War of the Rohirrim. And this goes on the great tier as well, which surprised the heck out of me that actually happened. Because originally I was expecting, okay, I'm probably going to like this one, but I had no idea I was going to like it as much as I did. This is probably my favorite Middle Earth project we've gotten since the original trilogy you see up there in Best of the Best. I think the whole entire dynamic between Wolf and the main protagonist we have in here, I forgot what her name was, sorry. That dynamic I thought was quite good. The battle sequences were also really good. And the anime style, I think, really fit with this movie. I think it really fit with the Middle Earth world and surprised me that it meshed so well. And yeah, I thought it was really, really good. Can't say best of the best though, because I do think there's some familiarity to it. And I would say not every character you get invested in, maybe besides the two main ones, but everyone else, you don't really connect with. But yeah, thoroughly enjoyed that one. But that is just my tier list. ranking of all the Hobbit slash Lord of the Rings movies. Be sure to let me know your list down below. But that being said, guys, I'll see y'all in the next one, everybody. Peace.